You stood in front of that rack of empty plastic pots in your garage last fall. You know the ones. Every single pot held something green and hopeful back in April. $60, maybe 80. You dug the holes. You watered. You did what the tag said. And by August, you were pulling brown sticks out of the ground and wondering what you did wrong. There's a particular kind of quiet that settles on you in that moment. It isn't just the money. It's the feeling that maybe you don't have the touch, that maybe gardening is for other people. I'm here to tell you that feeling is a lie. You didn't fail those plants. Most of what they sell you was never built to last in the first place. There are plants that come back for 30, 40, 50 years without asking much of anybody. Folks used to know which ones they were. Nobody taught you. And there's a reason nobody taught you. We'll get to that before we're done. My name is Walter Hayes. I'm 68 years old, and I farm the same Ozark ground in Missouri that my grandfather worked back in the 1940s. I've had my hands in this dirt for better than 50 years. I've grown for market, I've grown for neighbors, and I've grown for the simple pleasure of watching Margaret cut flowers for the kitchen table. What I know, I learned the slow way. Today I'm giving you the 10 perennials I will always plant. Plants that cost you once and pay you back for decades. For every single one, I'll tell you the zones it grows in, the sun it wants, the spacing, and the one mistake that kills it. And number 9 on this list blooms in February, through the snow. I'd bet money you've walked past it 100 times and never knew its name. Don't you go anywhere before we get to number 9. Let's get into it. Number 1, the daylily. Now I can hear some of you through the screen. That old orange thing growing in the ditch, that's not a garden plant. Well, hold on a minute. Those orange trumpets you see blooming along old fence rows every June are growing there with no water, no fertilizer, and nobody tending them. Sometimes for longer than anybody can remember. That's not a weed. That's a survivor. Here's how it works. Under the ground, a daylily builds a mass of thick, fleshy roots that store water like a canteen. Dry spell comes, the plant just drinks from its own reserves. Each flower only lasts a single day, but one stem carries a dozen buds or more, so the show runs for weeks. And I'll tell you something the catalogs won't. Those old, plain varieties very often outlive the fancy new ones. The old genetics are tough. Daylilies grow in zones 3 through 9. Full sun is best, though they'll take a little afternoon shade. Set them 18 to 24 inches apart, with the crown no more than 1 inch below the soil. Plant deeper than that, and you'll get leaves and no flowers. Every 4 or 5 years, dig a clump in early fall, split it with a spade, and you've got free plants for the rest of the yard. One serious thing before we move on. Daylilies are dangerous for cats. Even a small nibble of leaf or petal can hurt a cat's kidneys badly. If you've got cats that wander your beds, put these where the cats don't go, or skip them entirely. I mean that. Number 2, the hosta. If you've got a shady spot where grass won't grow and everything you've tried just sulks and dies, this is the answer folks have been using for 100 years. Those big ribbed leaves come in blue, green, gold, deep emerald, and white-edged, and a mature one looks like a fountain made of foliage. The reason hostas own the shade is simple. Those enormous leaves are solar panels. They catch the little dabs of light that filter through the trees, light that smaller-leafed plants can't live on. And once the clump fills in, the leaves shade the soil underneath so weeds can't get started and moisture doesn't bake away. Hostas grow in zones 3 through 9, in part shade to full shade. The mistake I watch people make over and over is cramming a big variety into a small hole. That cute thing in the 4-inch pot may want 5 feet of room in 3 years. Read the tag and believe it. Now let me be honest about the deer, because I won't pretend. Deer love hostas. Around here, we call them deer lettuce. If you've got heavy deer pressure, plant hostas close to the house, near the porch and the dog, not out at the property line. Slugs chew them too. A shallow dish of beer sunk to the rim in the soil will draw slugs in overnight, and that's the old fix that still works. Number 3, the black-eyed Susan, that blazing hot strip along your driveway where everything cooks by July. This is the plant for it. Golden yellow petals around a dark brown center, blooming from midsummer right up until frost, when most everything else has quit. This one's a native. It grew on this continent long before any of us were here, which means it already knows how to handle our heat, our dry spells, and our poor soil. It doesn't need you to improve anything. Zones 3 through 9, full sun. Set plants about 18 inches apart, and once they're established, they shrug off drought. Now, here's where most folks go wrong with this one. They treat it like a polite little clump, and it is not polite. Black-eyed Susans drop seed, and in 3 or 4 years, one plant becomes a colony. Give it room, or it will take the room. The good news is the volunteers pull out of spring soil easy as anything, so you stay in charge with 10 minutes of work a year, and leave some of those dark seed heads standing through winter. The goldfinches will work them like a free bird feeder, and that's a prettier sight than bare dirt. Let me ask you something before we keep going. Add up what you've spent replacing dead plants over the last 5 years. For a lot of folks, that's a few $100s. Quiet money that just leaks away every spring. This channel exists to plug that leak. Subscribing costs you nothing, and it may be the smartest thing you do for your garden today. Now, back to the list. Number 4, the daffodil. And I want you to understand why this one matters so much right now. Everywhere I go, people tell me the deer eat everything. Hostas, daylilies, even the mums. So listen close. Deer do not eat daffodils. Squirrels don't either. Not because they're polite, but because every part of a daffodil carries a bitter compound that makes animals sick, and they learned to leave it alone generations ago. It's the one spring flower with built-in armor. Folks sometimes swear a squirrel ate their daffodils. More often than not, what got eaten were tulips planted nearby. Tulips are squirrel candy. A squirrel might dig up a daffodil bulb by mistake, take one bite, and drop it right there on the grass. If you find one lying out in fall, just push it back in the ground. No harm done. Plant the bulbs in fall, 6 inches deep, pointed end up, in zones 3 through 8. They bloom in early spring, and the clumps grow bigger every single year with no help from you. The mistake that ruins them is cutting the leaves off after the flowers fade. Those green leaves are charging the bulb's battery for next spring. Leave them 6 weeks until they yellow and flop. Plant daylilies in front of them, and the daylily leaves will rise up and hide the ripening foliage. My grandfather's daffodils still bloom along the old fence row here, and he planted those before I was born. Number 5, perennial salvia. Late spring, this one sends up spikes of deep violet purple that hum with bees from morning to evening. not the cooking sage, mind you. This is its tough garden cousin, and it may be the hardest plant on this list to kill. Zones 4 through 9, full sun, about 18 inches apart. The trick that doubles your flowers is this. When that first flush of spikes fades in early summer, take your shears and cut the whole plant back by half. Looks brutal. Do it anyway. In a few weeks it pushes a fresh round of bloom, and sometimes a third. The mistake with salvia is kindness. Rich soil, fertilizer, and lots of water make it grow soft and floppy until it falls open in the middle. It comes from lean, dry country, and lean is how it likes to live. Plant it in your worst sunny soil and walk away. The foliage has a sharp, herby smell that deer dislike, so they pass it by more often than not. And here's a piece of thrift for you. Those half-dead salvias on the clearance rack in October marked down to $2? Buy them. Put them in the ground that same week. The roots are alive, and they'll come back in spring like nothing ever happened. Number 6. The purple cone flower. Folks ask about this one more than nearly any plant I know, and it earns the attention. Rosy purple petals sweeping back from a copper-orange cone, standing 3 feet tall through the worst heat of summer with butterflies all over it. It's a prairie native, and that word tells you everything about how to grow it. A young coneflower spends its first season driving a taproot deep into the ground, and after that it can pull water from where your hose never reaches. Zones 3 through 9, full sun, 18 to 24 inches apart. The way people kill coneflowers is by loving them too hard. Rich amended soil, fertilizer, water every evening, and you get a tall, floppy, short-lived plant. Treat it a little mean. Ordinary soil, water the first summer while that root goes down, and after that leave it be. Don't cut it down in fall either. Those dark cones are packed with seed, and goldfinches will ride them like little carnival rides all winter long. Come spring, you'll find a few baby coneflowers sprouted nearby. Free plants again. You'll notice that's a pattern with everything on this list. We're past the halfway mark now, and I haven't forgotten my promise. Number 9. The flower that blooms through February snow is still ahead, and so is the one I'd plant for my grandchildren. Stay with me. Number 7. Coral bells. Here's a problem every yard has. A shady spot that's green, 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 and nothing but green. Coral bells fix it without needing a single flower because the color is in the leaves themselves. Deep burgundy, caramel, lime, amber, silver with dark veins. That color shows up when the leaves unfurl in spring and holds right through hard frost. They grow in zones 4 through 9 and want part shade, morning sun, and afternoon shelter being about perfect. The thing that kills them is wet feet. The crown sits right at the soil surface, and in soggy ground it rots. Give them well-drained soil, and in cold winter country lay 2 inches of mulch around them after the ground freezes. Freeze and thaw can push the crowns up out of the soil like a frost heaves a fence post. Check them in early spring and press any risers gently back down. And here's something for those of us whose knees have opinions. Coral bells are one of the finest pot plants there is. Set one in a good-sized container on the porch rail or a bench, waist high, and you get all that color with no kneeling, no bending, and perfect drainage besides. Margaret keeps 3 by the kitchen door, and they're the first color we see every morning. Now, while we're here, do something for me. Down in the comments, Tell me your state or your USDA zone if you know it. Missouri grows different from Minnesota, and Minnesota grows different from Mississippi. I read everyone, and what you tell me decides what we cover next. Takes you 10 seconds, and it shapes this whole channel. Number 8. Sedum autumn joy. Think about your yard in late September. Tired, brown around the edges, winding down. And right then, this plant hits its peak. Flat flower heads the size of your palm, opening soft pink, deepening to rose, then aging to a rusty copper as the nights cool. It gives you a show in the exact weeks nothing else will. It's a succulent, and that's the secret. Those thick, fleshy, blue-green leaves are full of stored water, so drought simply doesn't register. In spring, it comes up in neat rosettes. By midsummer, the green flower heads look for all the world like little heads of broccoli. Then the color turns on just as everything else turns off. Zones 3 through 9, full sun, 18 to 24 inches apart. And the rule is the same as the salvia and the coneflower. Don't feed it. Don't fuss over it. Rich soil and fertilizer make the stems stretch soft until the whole clump splays open like a bad haircut. Poor soil keeps it tight and upright. When winter comes, leave it standing. Frost on those copper seed heads is one of the prettiest sights of the cold months, and small beneficial creatures shelter down in the stems until spring. Cut it back in March, and it starts all over. And now, number 9, the one I promised you, the Lenten rose. Picture February in your yard. Gray sky, frozen ground, not one living thing in sight. And there, under the bare trees, a low clump of leathery evergreen leaves holding up cup-shaped flowers in dusty rose, cream, plum, some so deep they're nearly black, blooming in the snow. The first time you see it, you stand there in your coat, not quite believing it. The flowers nod toward the ground, which is why you've walked past them and never noticed. Crouch down sometime and tip one bloom up with a finger. The freckled insides are as pretty as anything that flowers in June. They hold that bloom for 2 months and more, February into April, because in the cold everything moves slow, including fading. And here's its armor. Every part of a Lenten rose is bitter and mildly toxic. So deer, rabbits, and even slugs leave it completely alone. That same fact means you keep pets and grandkids from chewing on it, and wear gloves if you divide one, since the sap can irritate skin. Fair is fair. Zones 4 through 9, in shade, with soil that's rich and drains well. Plant it where you'll see it from a window in winter, because that's when it earns its keep. I'll be straight with you, because that's the only way I know how to talk. The first year, it just sits there, sulks even. But by year 3, it owns its spot, and a clump can outlast the person who planted it. Margaret's patch under the kitchen window came from her mother, and it has never missed a February yet. Number 10, the peony. I saved this one for last because it's the plant you don't really grow for yourself. You grow it for whoever comes after you. On old farmsteads all over this country, you'll find peonies blooming beside foundations where the house itself is long gone. 75 years, 100, still blooming every June with nobody tending them. The flowers are the size of softballs in white, blush, rose, and deep red, with a fragrance that fills a room from one jar on the table. Zones 3 through 8, full sun, about 3 feet apart. They need real winter cold to set their buds, so if you're in zone 9 or warmer, I won't pretend this one's for you. Now listen close, because there is one mistake that accounts for nearly every peony that never blooms. Planting too deep. The eyes, those little pink buds on the root, must sit no more than 2 inches below the soil surface. 3 inches down, and you'll get healthy leaves and no flowers for years. 2 inches. Measure it, then leave the plant alone, because peonies hate being moved and reward patience instead. One more thing, because it worries people every spring. You'll see ants crawling all over the buds. They're not hurting a thing. They're just sipping the sweet coating on the buds, and they'll leave when the flowers open. No spray needed. Never was. So there's the list. But let me hand it back to you a different way, by the problem you're actually staring at. For that dark corner where nothing grows, you've got 3 answers now. Hosta for the bones, coral bells for the color, and Lenten rose for the winter miracle. For the blazing strip by the driveway, black-eyed Susan, coneflower, and sedum will thrive on the heat that kills everything else, with the daylily right behind them. If the deer treat your yard like a buffet, lead with daffodils and Lenten rose, the two they truly will not touch, and back them up with salvia. If your knees have retired before you have, put coral bells and sedum in big pots at waist height and garden standing up. If watering gets forgotten at your house, the sedum, the coneflower, and the daylily will quietly forgive you all summer. And if you want to plant something that says you are here, that's the peony and the daffodil. Those two will be blooming for somebody you'll never meet. Now, I owe you the answer I promised at the start. Why did nobody teach you any of this? Nobody had to hide it. The arithmetic did the work all by itself. A customer who plants a peony once and enjoys it for 50 years walks into the store one time. A customer whose flowers die every August walks in every single April, cart ready. The trays of short-lived color earn money every year. A list like this one earns money once. So the old knowledge didn't get buried. It just stopped being worth anybody's time to repeat. Except mine. I'm retired. My time's my own. Here's your job for this week, and it's free. One morning before Sunday, take your coffee and walk your yard slow. Find the one spot that's beaten you, the dark corner, the baked strip, the place where the pots of guilt came from. Don't fix it yet. Just stand there and match it to this list. Shade, that's your hosta, and Lenten rose. Sun and neglect, that's your coneflower and sedum. The plan costs nothing, and it's half the battle. And before you go, I want to ask you about something other than zones. Did your mother or your grandmother have a plant that followed the family from house to house? A peony root in a feed sack, an iris dug from the home place? Tell me that story in a comment. Those plants and those stories get lost the same way when nobody passes them on, and I'd rather they got written down right here. I read every single one. Next time, we're covering the tough ones that didn't make today's list. Russian sage, the fall asters, lamb's ear, and a few more runner-ups folks keep asking me about. Some of them deserved a spot here, and I'll tell you why they missed it. That's the old garden way. I'll see you in the garden.